Welcome back to the Stitches and Scribbles podcast. My name is Erin, and I've got some catching up to do with you guys. I know I skipped last week's podcast just because of some travel stuff that was going on, as well as just a busy week. So I think I mentioned this in the last podcast that I uploaded, but we actually went out of town for Father's Day to visit my husband's side of the family, and it wasn't that we stayed a day longer than we originally were going to. It was when I was planning, I mixed up the days. So I thought we were coming back Monday and we were actually coming back Tuesday. I did figure it out before we actually left. But it kind of threw off my filming and crafting schedule. So not only did I not do any videos last week, I also didn't do my farmer's market craft fair last week, just because even though we got back on Tuesday and my market is always on Wednesdays, that turnaround just felt really fast for trying to restock some items and just feel prepared for another event, when I was really kind of not burnt out, but definitely tired from the travel and a busy weekend and all that. So I just kind of gave myself a week off to clean the house and relax and work on some personal projects. But I did have some finished objects to share with you today, as well as some whips. So I was excited to dive back into things and get back. I feel like I say this in every podcast, but hopefully get back to a normal-ish schedule. Although next weekend is 4th of July, so I'm already trying to do some pre-filming because I won't have a lot of time the week of 4th of July because we have relatives coming into town. So who knows? I make no promises as to what my future videos are going to look like. But for today, I do have some stuff to show you, so we'll just dive right into it. I do have quite a few finished objects to show you. Most of these are things that I'm bringing to my craft fair this week, the farmer's market that I work with. So we'll start with those. First thing I made is a bunch of soap savers. I do have tutorials for these on my channel. If you're interested, I make mine using a knitting machine and then I crochet the little drawstring part of it. So I'm just using up scrubby yarn that I had in my stash. So I made a yellow, a red, a black, a light blue, and a gray. And then I actually tried a new yarn this week for making soap savers. So it's this kind of almost like a tube construction of a very thin plastic filament. But I saw these at Joann, and at my Joann they have them on an end cap. I wish I had remembered what they were called. It was something scrubby, and I think maybe it was Big Twist brand, but I can't remember. But I've never seen scrubby yarn like this before. So I don't think it worked fantastic on the knitting machine. It went through the machine just fine. But I don't think it looks as good as the normal Red Heart scrubby yarn that I use. But I am interested to try this and see if maybe this works better for crocheting scrubby items, just because the yarn doesn't have the eyelash effect on it. It's almost like a chainette construction or a tube construction for the yarn. So I do kind of want to try some other things with this. I did have some left over from this skein. I didn't use the whole thing, although they are pretty small skeins, so if you are going to do soap savers on the knitting machine, you'll probably only get 2 out of 1 skein versus the Red Heart scrubby. I usually can get 3, plus having some leftovers that I can use to make stripy ones. But I'm very interested to continue playing with this yarn. This is very much a side tangent, but I'm hoping to actually get myself a bike for this summer. I'm a little behind schedule on that task, but I picked the one that I want from REI. I just need to actually go and get it. which is the part that I haven't done yet, obviously. But I kind of was toying with the idea of putting a basket on the bike and crocheting some like granny square motifs around the basket to make it very personalized. The problem with that is that if the yarn were to get wet, I would want something that would dry out really easily. So I'm thinking that this could be a good yarn for that project. So assuming that the bike actually happens, that might be something that you see in the future, making little granny squares with this. This also came in a lot of colors, which I was really impressed by. There were at least 2 shades of green, if not 3. And there was also, like, I remember pretty teal and some softer colors. So I would definitely recommend playing with this if you're someone who makes like dish scrubbies a lot, because I think that this would work better for crocheted like scrubby items instead of the like eyelash style yarn, which can be hard to see with a crochet hook. So I made all of those. The other craft fair item I made this week is actually a water bottle purse. So this is actually something I've been working on for a while because I want to release a pattern for a water bottle purse, but I want it to be kind of a customizable pattern. So I want to write in directions for multiple diameters of water bottles as well as multiple stitches that you can use to make the purse. But it's a pretty simple construction. It's just kind of a tube-shaped little pouch and a strap as well as a drawstring so that you can pull it tight if you desire to pull it tight. So this will be something that I'm hoping to release in the next couple of weeks, but I do want to make a couple of practice rounds of that and do some more work on formatting the pattern, because I've purchased patterns before where there were multiple options for how to construct whatever the item was, but I'm trying to figure out what order would be the best for the different options. So there's going to be 4 different styles for the bag. So I'm thinking that I start with a section on making the base, which is basically like crocheting in the round, with directions on how to make the base the correct diameter for your water bottle, and then having the 3 options for building up the sides of the purse, then having the directions for finishing and like adding the drawstring, and then directions for the strap, so that I don't have, because otherwise I feel like the other way to do that is just to do each option chunked together, but that means kind of repeating some of the same steps. So I'm thinking that doing it as a like, here's how you make the base, here's your options for building up the sides, and then the drawstring and then the strap would be easier to read as someone using the pattern. And then also if you're like making a bunch of them, you can kind of do it in batches, like make all the bases and then all of the sides. I don't know. Is this too complicated? Am I overthinking this too much? But anyway, water bottle purses. I figure that that'll be a good item to sell at the farmer's market as well, which is where this one is going. If you recognize the yarn, it is the same yarn that I used to make my Renaissance Fair bodice. Was that just last year? I think that was 2 years ago that I did that video. But I crocheted a Renaissance Fair bodice using this yarn. It is the Comfy Cotton blend from Lion brand, and this is in the color Stained Glass. I do like this yarn. I purchased quite a lot of it, and I have a whip with it as well, which is why it's off to the side like that. Other finished objects. I wanted to make some more plushies for the farmer's market, so I made this little jellyfish. He was a free pattern on Instagram. Let me know if you're interested in the pattern details. I feel like there's a lot of jellyfish very similar to this one, but I really like how the tentacles look when you kind of spin them around. It reminds me of that scene in Finding Nemo where the little octopus says that one of her tentacles is shorter than all the other tentacles. but really like how this turned out. I also really like this color yarn. This is one of the Bernat blanket yarns. I can't remember if it was in the baby section or the regular section, but it's one of the variegated ones in shades of like mint and teal and like a light sagey green. So thought that little guy turned out very cute. Hopefully he goes home with somebody at this week's market. Then I also made one more leggy frog. I have an entire video dedicated to making leggy frogs, so you can check that out if you're interested in all of the patterns or the pattern and other details. I actually made another half of a frog, but I lost yarn chicken, so my other frog is missing one leg. So I actually have to go to Joann this week and get the yarn to finish that one. He was in like a darker green, so I'll show you that one when he's done. And then the third farmer's market item I made is this little dinosaur. He's like an Apatosaurus Brontosaurus. I'm not nuts about how this pattern turned out. I think the head is really cute. I think the body needed to be bigger. And I also don't really like the fact that the tail is just flat instead of being a 3D object. So I'm still going to take it to the farmer's market and see if anyone wants to buy it, but I might be looking for a different dinosaur pattern in the future. It was a free pattern, so it's not like I spent money on a pattern that I didn't like, but I think I'm going to try a different dino pattern in the future. I do really like the T-Rex one that I used in a previous vlog, but I did sell the one T-Rex that I made in that video, so I might have to go back to making T-Rexes. But I was kind of trying to keep Stuffy small because I actually made all 3 of these while we were out of town. So I was trying to keep like similar colors, so I only brought like blues and greens. I originally was going to try to make some crocodiles too, but I didn't like the crocodile pattern that I found, so I did frogs, a dinosaur, and a jellyfish, and that ended up being all that I had time to do. So definitely not as many plushies as I would have liked to have made, but that in addition to the soap savers and adding a water bottle purse, I also forgot that I have my like wind spinner things that I haven't brought to a market yet, so I might add those this week as well to my stash. The other finished object I have is actually a baby hat. This does not have a pattern. It was an improvised little baby bucket hat, sun hat pattern. I am making this for a friend who really likes Taylor Swift, and she bought her baby daughter a Taylor Swift for President onesie for 4th of July. I haven't seen it yet. I just heard that it was patriotic, so I decided to crochet a little baby sun hat for her. And then I also purchased some red and navy ribbon from Joann, and I'm going to use my Cricut to put Miss Americana on the ribbon and then put it around the hat for that classic little sun hat look. So I'm very excited to finish that project. Unfortunately, you probably won't be able to see the finished object on my channel. I'll try to post an Instagram picture of it because I need to like finish it and give it to her this week in order for it to be ready on time. I just really hope I made the hat big enough. I did look at some of the other baby hats that she has the last time I was at her house. I think I made it big enough. If not, there's like a little bit of stretch to it, but not much because I crocheted it pretty tight in order for it to not be like floppy. I wanted more of a stiff fabric for this, but I like how the little like scallop edges turned out. I think that was very cute. And that was totally an improv pattern. If you want to try to make something like this yourself, I just started with I think it was 8 single crochets in a magic loop and did increases flat for a couple rounds and then started doing rows with no increases in between my increase rows to kind of like taper off the hat shape. And then I alternated between double crochet rows and single crochet rows to make this little pattern. I went back to single crochet increase rows for the brim and finished it off with 1 row of shell stitches. So not super hard to figure out. I didn't end up like ripping this back very much while I was working on it. So pretty simple design. I'm sure there's millions out there that look kind of like this, but that's kind of what I did. I am still like not in the habit of making baby clothes. I make a lot of baby blankets, but I haven't been commissioned to make baby clothes very often. Actually, I think the only other baby clothing item I made was for the same child, but I made like a sweater that will fit her like this coming cold season, so it's like between infant and toddler size. So those are the only 2 baby garments I think I've made, other than like beanie hats. I've made a couple of those. So definitely a fun experiment. I do like that baby clothes go fast because they're so tiny. That's definitely makes it easier to just whip out a project for fun. But yeah, that a lot of information about a very simple baby hat. It's also made in Lily Sugar and Cream cotton in the plain white color. Other than the ribbon, and you already saw the new Soap Saver yarn that I had purchased, I had one other acquisition this week. There's a lady who is one of the volunteers running the farmers market that I sell things at. She requested a burgundy towel tamer. If you don't know what a towel tamer is, I also have a tutorial for those on my channel. I don't have any out right now because they're all in the garage with my craft fair stuff that's ready to go for this week. But it's a little handle basically that helps keep a towel on an oven door or a towel bar or over a hook, wherever you choose to use it. But she requested a burgundy one, and I, in my head, thought that the Lily Sugar and Cream, which is usually what I use for those, had a burgundy color, and at least at my Joann, it does not. This was the only burgundy cotton yarn I could find, and this is the Lion Brand Sustainable Stitching Re-Up, which is a recycled cotton polyester blend, so I guess it's not 100% cotton. But this was the only burgundy cotton yarn I could find. The color is actually called Fig Tree. Really pretty color. I'm hoping I can use this for other things because obviously this is massive. So I'll make her one soap saver and then figure out something else to make with the rest of this. I kind of want to make a set for my car of like headrest covers and a steering wheel cover. And my car is kind of a deeper red, but it's like between a burgundy and a cherry red. So I might pull in some of the cherry red cotton that I have too, and maybe a couple of other colors like a teal and a sage green to make a like granny square set for my car. Because my favorite color is green, but my car is red. So I would like to have some greens in there, but I also don't want it to look Christmassy, which is why usually if I want to do like a sage green and a red, I also add like a deep teal, and that usually prevents it from looking too Christmassy, at least in my head. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me. But yeah, I'm going to have to find something to do with the rest of this because this is a lot of burgundy cotton yarn. Going back to like projects I've been working on and stuff like that, on the weekend that we were out of town, there was a lot of driving involved. So I brought my birthday scarf, which I actually don't have down here because I forgot it upstairs. I did work on it for a while, but I kind of got tired of it, which I feel a little bit bad about that because I've been working on that project for so long, but the yarn is so tiny and I was kind of getting to a point where I felt like I needed to work on something different in the car and while watching movies. My husband's family really likes to go to the movie theater. So I started a triangle shawl with one of my Lion Brand mandala yarns. I'm in the middle of the row and I just dropped the yarn skein. But I started with this pink end and moved through to now I'm on like almost a navy blue color. This is the Lion Brand Mandala in the color Griffin. And in the remainder of the skein, it goes back to like a deep purple color. But I worked on this starting when we went to the movies. We actually ended up seeing the new Flash movie. And I worked on that while sitting in the dark because it's an easy enough pattern, and it's mostly garter stitch with just an increase every other row. I do actually have a tutorial for it. It's on my channel. I called it the Sanderson shawl because when I did it for the YouTube tutorial video, I was using a bunch of Halloween colored yarns. So that is available on my channel if you want to make the same shawl. That's kind of one of my favorite like repeated patterns that I go back to a lot just because it's so easy and it's so great for multicolored or cake yarn. But I started that while we were watching The Flash and then continued it in the car on the way back. And then this week I've actually really been enjoying reading in the morning over the last couple days. And I realized that I can knit while reading as long as I'm reading from a screen, so like an e-reader or my phone and not a physical book. So I've been reading while working on that project because it's simple enough that I don't need to look at it. So that's why I'm now like almost done with it in not that much time. I did kind of think to myself that if I had put that much time into my birthday scarf, the birthday scarf would probably be done by now. But we're not going to think about that. We're going to just save that for when I feel like working on it again. And then I have one more whip to show you. So like I said before, it's the Comfy Cotton blend from Lion Brand. And this is actually also a project I'm working on because I want to write it up as a pattern. I'm kind of doing it in tandem with the water bottle purse because A, they're both going to be great craft fair items, and B, they're both fairly simple, so I want to have some variation. And I realize that this kind of just looks like a big rectangle at the moment, but it will actually be a purse. So the way that I construct this is I fold it into thirds and then sew it up, and that gives you two interior pockets, and then I have a flap and a strap for it as well. But that is the other project I'm currently working on. And I'm going to be kind of alternating between making those two patterns while going through some of my cotton yarn that I want to de-stash. Mostly so that if people want to get like a matching set, they can. But also so that I'm not like making a bunch of like blue water bottle bags and then a bunch of yellow purses. Like there'll be some of each in every color. At least that's the goal. So that's the other project I'm working on, but it kind of doesn't look like much yet, so I'll have to show it to you. If not this version, because I would like to finish this one before this week's farmer's market so I can sell it. You'll see other versions as the summer goes on because I'm sure I'll be making more of them. I did have one of that purse that I sold last year. Both of these patterns have kind of been on the back burner for a really long time for me, so I'm excited to dig them back out and actually start working on them again so that I can get them out to you all and add some more stuff to my Etsy shop because I would really like to add more items to that. I think I want to get some more stuff in there for you guys to check out. But on that note, if you want to check me out on other social media, including my Etsy store, that information will be in the description box below. I sell patterns as well as some printable or like digital items. There are no physical items in my Etsy shop. It's all things that you save and use on your computer or print or whatever. And it would really help me out if you liked, left a comment, and subscribed to my channel. I am really, really close to being a YouTube partner, and I would really love to jumpstart that journey and start being able to reasonably invest more time in YouTube things. So it would really help me out if you interacted with this video so it can get out to more people. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.